Komang, Charlie Smith, Jong Banji, Georgia Strait. I'm Charlie Smith, editor of the Georgia Strait, and I'm very happy to be back on another week with WOW TV. And I'm joined by Janet Smith, who's been our arts editor for many years, the foremost authority on arts in Vancouver. Welcome to WOW TV, Janet.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks.
And this week is our Best of Vancouver issue. It's the 19th annual Best of Vancouver. You could see the cover here. And one of the things we try to do is gauge the public pulse about a whole wide range of areas. So we had questions in 272 different categories. And we were trying to find out what people think were the best of various areas, whether it's the best politician, which happened to be Gregor Robertson was the most popular. I know some people may disagree with that, but he won the election. You had the Vancouverite closest to hell. You had a whole bunch of fun categories, but one of the areas was also the arts. And in this election, there were actually more than 500,000 responses to individual questions. So this is a very large turnout. So I think if people won this election in the Best of Vancouver, that they can take real pride that this is a large sample size. So I'll ask you, Janet, who did well in the arts?
Yeah, I think there are some surprises, but some that aren't. But I think in general, the number of responses we got on the arts questions show us that the arts are really becoming more popular in this city and continuing to grow, and they're a big part of our economy, to be honest. So the big names out there, of course, the Best Art Gallery, it was the Vancouver Art Gallery, and they, of course, have had some huge shows this year. The Douglas Copeland show was a hit over the summer. Coming up this fall is the Forbidden City, all the things from China, all those artifacts and things, so that'll be a huge show too. So it's always a strong contender. Best Music Ensemble, of course, was the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, another huge cultural body in our city, the biggest one actually. They have the most shows. Literally, when we try to list their concerts each week, I mean, they have something going several times a week, and they now have this new smaller venue. So the symphony continues to be a really strong contender in the city. Elsewhere, I thought it was interesting, the classical vocal ensemble. It was Corleone that took top prize this year, and that's an all-male choir that's becoming more and more popular. Second place went to Musica Intima, another all a cappella group. They never sing with an orchestra. They don't even have a leader or a conductor. They just sort of conduct themselves. So another interesting group. The choral scene in this city is huge. We're renowned across North America for it, and even in Europe. We have so many choirs in this city that are doing top of the line work. And of course, the Best Professional Dance Company went to Ballet BC, another troupe that is becoming known across the world. Last year, they performed at Jacob's Pillow, which is sort of the spot in America for contemporary dance. It's a festival there, and they got across-the-board rave reviews. And now some of the top choreographers in Europe are phoning them, asking if they can make work for them. So I think the people who won in these categories in arts definitely are showing how we're becoming a world-class city for the arts.
I find it very interesting as I hear you speaking about this, that people are coming to Vancouver, whereas we used to always have to go abroad. And what are some of the changes you've seen over the course of your career as an arts journalist?
Well, I've just seen exactly what you say. Often, there was a while there where artists were actually leaving in order to find work. There was a period sort of when the economy wasn't so great where a lot of dancers were moving to Montreal and elsewhere in the world where there was more production going on. Now it's the opposite. We're drawing dancers. For instance, Ballet BC has dancers in its company from all over the world. We're drawing artists here to do work, and I think that's really significant. And we're drawing cultural tourists as well. Bard on the Beach was a perfect example this summer. There are people who travel here from all over the U.S. and from Europe even to see that festival and to take part in the cultural activities going on here. So we are becoming a cultural destination, and I don't think we necessarily were seen as that before. We were here for the mountains and the sea and the cruise ships, but now I really do think that any arts group will tell you we are getting cultural tourists for sure.
That's very interesting because I think about the cultural economy and the work of people like Richard Florida at the Rotman School of Management and University of Toronto, that he talks about the 21st century is the era of the cultural economy, I don't really see that necessarily reflected in media coverage of the economy. Like you pick up the Globe and Mail report on business and they don't talk about the cultural economy. What goes through your mind when you see what's on the ground and then you see what's in the media?
Well, what I see is that there were a lot of facets of our economy that suffered during the recession, the so-called recession that we had that started in 2008. I've seen the opposite happen in the arts. I saw them hold tight. It was not easy for them, but they held strong through that. And now I think a lot of them will tell you they're stronger than ever, despite the fact that funding from our government levels is always a problem. They've held steady, and they're one of the few sectors of the economy to actually do that during the recession. So, I think they're holding strong. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, too, in the best of was just the whole visual arts component as well, and public art. And you'll see in our best of items that were written by our editorial staff, a lot of them have to do with public art. There was the Silos project done by Os Gêmeos, the Brazilian twins, just did a massive installation there. We've seen stuff all along the South False Creek seawall. If you ride your bike along there, you'll see all kinds of new pieces of art, public art, thanks to the Vancouver Biennale. So we're becoming known for that too, and I think that's a tourist draw too. I mean, in Seattle, their public art is something that's on every tourist sort of itinerary, and that's becoming that way here in Vancouver too.
One of the things that I was struck by was watching all the people taking photographs of Gumhead, Douglas Copeland's Gumhead on Howe Street, and it really seemed to capture the public imagination. And I'm wondering, why do you think this, of all the things, seemed to have that effect?
Oh, you mean that piece
Yeah,
in particular?
yeah.
Well, I just think that, Douglas Copeland is one of our best known artists. I mean, he's not just an artist, he's an author, and he's a designer, and he's all kinds of different things. So people know his name, and the fact that he would do a piece that's kind of that tactile and gross, people were actually sticking gum on his self-portrait on his own head, was kind of amusing to people and a provocative statement. And I just love the fact that we're putting public art up now that pushes the edge. Vancouver in the past perhaps has had what I would call safe public art, and now we have enough sense of humor to know that these more provocative pieces are really a draw for people.
One of the things that's coming up in the fall, too, is the Vancouver East Culture Crawl. And maybe you could just speak a little bit about that, give us a bit of a preview of what people can expect.
Yeah, and that was a best of item as well. That's a mainstay in our best ofs, is the East Side Culture Crawl. It always shows up one way or another. So it happens in late November. They're expanding it this year to start Thursday night. It used to be a 3-day event. Now it's going to be 4 days, and it's always expanding. And what it is an open studio tour of East Vancouver, near the Drive and in Strathcona, and it allows you to see these hundreds and hundreds of artists and designers who are making things every day, but we never get a chance to see them there. Thousands of people turn out to this now every year. My favorite time to go is on opening night, because they always have wine and cheese in all the galleries, and you can really get a chance to speak to the artists. But I think it's something that everyone now sort of marks on their calendar to do every year.
And the last art form I'd like to raise is comedy, because we've also seen an explosion of comedy in Vancouver in recent years. Maybe you could outline some of the things happening there.
Yeah, this has been a real education for me through our comedy writer, Guy McPherson. How many Vancouver comedians have gone on to do great things? So he's constantly writing about comedians who started here, and now they're on The Tonight Show, or now they're on, the Jimmy Kimmel Show, or wherever. And it's really quite amazing when you start to look at all the articles we run through a year. Let me see here who made the comedy list. Yeah, the Comedy Mix was chosen as our favorite comedy venue in town. They get some of the best names there, but names like Darcy Michaels and other people who have gone on to do big shows. Darcy Michaels is going to be opening for Russell Peters, so it just shows you how big this scene has become.
Okay, I want to thank you, Janet. And now we're going to move on, and I'll be talking to Travis Lupick about a series he's been doing about mental health in Vancouver.